Hey, we're live, and as I say, God VCon. Hey, it's Jeff, it's Thomas, and it's this week in VCon. This is what, the August 28th or so. My goodness, the summer's
The
going by.
dog days of August, I think this is
Dog days of August, and it's a really strange summer because usually next Monday would be Labor Day, but due to the fact that it's not, it
oh
belabors the summer out an extra week for some of us, which I'm really happy about. But it throws off business calendars. Like, what is going on? But
yeah,
hey, the
yeah.
calendar
I'm not
doesn't.
sad about it. I'm not sad about it. The Cape opens up in Memorial Day, and we run hard to Labor Day.
Yeah.
So an extra week of summer is an extra week of Cape Cod. So we're all in favor of that.
I'm all
Remember,
in favor of extra week of summer every day and as much vCons as you can consume. It's
the Constable as being part of Barnstable,
yeah.
recently claimed by Canada. Apparently, I don't know.
What's up with that? Yeah, we're not a political show, but like, what's going
Oh
on?
no, yeah, no. So the funny thing is, we've renamed Lake Ontario Lake America.
We did really?
Oh yeah, yesterday. Yeah, Gulf of America. Now we have Lake of America, and I live on
Oh
the Cape,
boy,
right, which is only 240 miles from the coast of Nova Scotia.
Halifax. Yeah, yeah.
And I think as a retaliatory move, Cape Cod Bay is now going to be called, you know, uh,
What is it?
what is it? Like
Not
Cape
the Bay
Breton
of.
Bay or something like.
Oh boy. Okay.
It's
Rewrite them.
9:30. It's the dog days of summer. Right?
But if we had vCons for all these conversations, at least we'd understand and keep track of what's being said.
This is a race, right? So for me, my older age, I've been chasing self-driving cars because I want to like grow old and not drive anymore.
Sure.
And the
Well,
vCons are going to help me why I'm driving
they'll help you while you're driving. They'll help you remember what you forgot.
or where I'm going.
But what one day vCons will, I don't know. I would have to make sure vCons don't act like consultants, because consultants, my friend would explain, you pay consultants to be your friend. You need an insultant to tell you the truth, and so we need to basically make sure that we keep a truth here too.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, we don't want
So
that.
so this has been an interesting week for me in vCons, because I've been traveling a little bit. I went, the vCon Foundation made a surprise appearance at the Connect.io show, and
Oh yeah.
I've discovered that there's an interesting corner of the telecom space where some people apparently think consent is not necessarily needed, and it kind of made me feel like I was a telecom narc talking to some undisclosed people about the ability for them to have inbound lead gen and hot transfers, and the fact that if I wanted a lead with consent, oh, that's more money. Like, what is going on?
Well, yeah, I'm always kind of shocked about when I see really cavalier attitudes towards this. But then I realized that, to be honest with you, if it were any sort of real big thing, they wouldn't be so cavalier. Like
Right. So
there's just no way hospitals are that cavalier in their data. Right?
no.
Just not a thing. Just not a thing. Which is one of the reasons I'm really encouraged about vCons, is because we really probably couldn't have AI voice at scale
Without them,
without them.
and I think, by the way, if anyone here is hiring an FDE or wants to become an FDE, one
Mhm.
of the cool abilities that you need to have, I think, in your AI bag of tricks, is to be not only vCon aware, but be a vCon expert, because I believe it's the vCon corpus and the entire headspace around vCons that are the secret empowering weapon that do enable agentic AI to talk to each other. If you're doing voice AI, certainly to have the conversation records, but even keeping track of all of the things that are happening between the humans and the AI, and to better understand the systems that are being developed and deployed. And I do believe a special feature. You'll see that I think that everyone's going to need vCon training. I think it's not an if, it's a when.
Mhm.
And the work that we're doing is going to be transformational to the future of getting us from where we are to where we're going.
Yeah, and every week doesn't it seem like that more? It seems that way more. And the forward deployed engineers, those FDEs, I really feel like they're the ground zero for our advocacy, because if you're a guy, so what's an FTE? An FTE is a guy who's responsible for bringing AI into a environment, into an organization. It's halfway between sales and engineering, and these are the guys who are fixing and deploying it really in production, right? And the problems that we solve in vCons tend to be very, important, but a little boring, right? I mean, it's not like, oh my God, you can do consent withdrawal. Well, but first of all, consent withdrawal is actually pretty cool. We should have had that a long time ago, right?
Yes, we should have.
That's an important thing. But it's not as if you have kids waking up in the morning going, I can't wait to grow up and be a consent withdrawal engineer. Right?
Well, true.
No one thinks that. But if you want to be a surgeon, you have to learn how to not kill your patients through negligence.
And look, if you want to be a surgeon, you also have to be, you have to do a residency, and you have to train, and you have to retrain, and you have to always learn new about. I mean, the biggest difference between being an accountant and being a doctor, as far as I could figure out when I was in college, was that once you're an accountant, you will go work in an accounting firm. Maybe you do something new for 1 year, and then if you're at the accounting firm for 10 years, you're basically doing the same thing for 10 years or 5 years. At least if you're in medicine, you are forced to relearn those techniques over and over again, so that we're not you're not taking things from the 1950s and doing it in the 2020s, that you have a chance to apply new knowledge. And I remember I was on a board of a soft switch vendor, which after I'm about to tell you what happened, I was off the board, but I accused them basically of killing patients, because I said, if you're simply taking a class 5 switch and porting the 50 or 100 most used features to your soft switch, and you're not innovating on top of that, you're effectively a doctor from the 1950s, and in the 1990s, you're just going to kill people because you're not learning about what's new. And I was basically told after that my services on the board were no longer needed. But if you think about being a truth bearer and being able to help people solve old problems, and I really do believe that just because it's been done before doesn't mean you can't do it better, and just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. And we look at how vCons are such a game changer in this world of AI, that so many people outside the FTE world are still trying to figure out, wow, like, what am I going to do? How do I apply this to my world?
Yeah. Yep. And I think it's what I'm finding is when people say, how am I going to apply this to my world, they find it. It's amazing the times and places they find to use vCons. I never imagined, and that's it's incredible. And as a developer, as a guy who writes code, I think for me the real joy is to be able to have what used to be this really hard data type to use, and now use it like any other data type. So before vCons, you could take images and spreadsheets or any sort of physical measurement and just use it programmatically. But now it was really difficult to use speech programmatically because it had to be transcribed and normalized. Once it's done for you, then you can say, find me the conversations where someone tells a bad joke, right? And then what happens? All of our stuff comes up, right? So
right. And so it's going to be naturally discoverable. My goal, I think, with the vCon Foundation is to help bring us into the foreground, not stay in the back. I mean, it's nice to be in the background that people can rely on it, but we do need to create knowledge so that if you're an engineer working in a Fortune 500 company and you're in IT, and you have the responsibility of deploying some type of agentic AI strategy, that that vCons are a missing link to help you make your stuff happen. Because the way I look at it is, particularly with it's Agent Proto is the work that Jonathan Rosenberg is doing.
Yes.
So even if there's no voice involved, if you're doing an AI, if you're rolling out AI agents in an enterprise, Agent Proto should come into play, and therefore vCons should be part of that architecture of the solution.
Yeah. So for those of you who might not put those pieces together, the best thing about a vCon is it contains a conversation, right? And the conversations between people and the conversations between robots happen to be very much the same shape, right? And so using vCons allows you to see what happened, to actually remember what happened. And one of the hardest parts about agentic AI is, especially distributed systems and distributed networks, what happened over there. what happened over there that affects me.
Right.
And I'm not saying that net with vCons you're going to see everything, but now you could see everything. You have the ability to now communicate between security boundaries and say, this is what happened to this, and have a lot more visibility. It's almost like if we finally bought a windshield for your car, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. And by the way, I'm going to put a plug in because today's the day our early bird ends, but really
Oh yeah.
so we're doing on October 13th to the 15th in 2026. I'm hosting in Atlanta. It's Fall 26 voice and conversations on the net. And after, I can't tell you how many interactions I've had with ChatGPT and Claude. Those LLMs still keep on. I wish I was a standard because at least it would get it right the first time. It keeps on referring to voice and conversations on the net as Vaughn. And no matter how much I train it and say that Vaughn is history, Vaughn took place from 1997 to 2008. Voice and conversations on the net is different. So I decided to start calling it Vaughn Plus.
Okay.
And so ChatGPT calls it started this week calling it Vaughn Plus, but Claude, nope, still Vaughn. But the cool part is on October 13th, yours truly, not me, that's Thomas, you have an entire, day's worth of content that we're going to attempt to give in half a day in the morning. And this is an open invitation to any future member of the vCon Foundation. This training should not go unheard, unseen. So if you're thinking about joining the vCon Foundation and you can get yourself to Atlanta, you are invited. That's right. You're invited to come and come to the October 13th event as our guest, as a fan, friend of This Week in vCons. I don't think there's any better way to get indoctrinated into what's happening around us other than showing up. And so in the morning, we have a very curated, tight content, which Thomas, I'm sure, will figure out how to cut away some stuff because it's too rich.
It's a lot.
And then in the afternoon, I'm still filling in with some the people working on the standards, the sessions. I know we're going to have a wonderful compliance session that we okayed that yesterday, and I am hopeful that some of the folks from the working group at the IETF's vCon working group will be in Atlanta. I believe some will be, but I need visual confirmation that will happen. And at the same time, for those of you who have ADD, ADHD, if learning about vCons is not enough on the same day, you also are invited to walk into our 2026 Voice AI Live. And it's no coincidence that I put Voice AI Live at the same day, at the same time as the vCons, because my hope is some of the founders, some of the people speaking at Voice AI Live are recently minted recently minted Y Combinator founders. And I am hoping that they move over to the other room to listen about vCons, because I do believe that strategically, if you're doing a voice AI startup, there's a place for vCons. And so that's October 13th. And then the 14th and 15th, I don't want to undersell this. This is, from all the events I've been to this year, and I've been to many, this is the first time we're going to see a multi-generational conference and I've interwoven into the content conversations with the carriers, the UCAS, the CPAS, and the voice AI creators, the people that are deploying and building voice AI. And one of my favorite sessions, not that I should call out any favorites, but I met at ClueCon, I met a gentleman who is building agentic AI for Best Buy. And I'm putting him in the session in Voice AI Live not to pitch anything, but to tell the event, because everyone's going to be talking about what they have. I'm asking him to tell him what he needs, to say what he needs.
Oh, nice.
Which is, I think, a nice switch. And then in the conference, I gave him a session to talk about what it's like to build in the enterprise. Because I want people who are coming from the vendor side to actually understand what it's like to be a builder, to be in IT. And I think that's kind of important. And we're building these ecosystems. It's we can't work in the dark. And so I'm looking to help cross connect those people together. And I'm really proud. This is I don't know. I mean, back in the 90s and early in the 2000s when voice was hot, I just assumed every day was going to be hot. And we went through some waves where VoIP was cool, then not cool, then cool. And I don't remember such a time other than 20 something years ago that millions and millions and millions of dollars have been deployed into any ecosystem that we touch. And the voice AI startups are getting a lot of money. And we're, shout out to your friends at Huggy Face who just got acquired by NVIDIA. It was like $13 billion announced yesterday. It's like
Wow.
billions became
I
millions.
didn't see that. Wow, good for them. Good for Hugging Face.
Yeah, Huggy Face is like, hey, $13 billion, not so bad. We just have to add a zero to people's valuations from the 90s so people could equate. But it's the reality is things are happening and it's really frothy. And I just think it's really important that even though most of the voice AI companies can exist by writing just software, and they let their APIs and their LLMs really write the code that runs on the infrastructure, it'd be really nice for them to meet the people who have the infrastructure. It'd be nice for the infrastructure people to meet the software people who, because there's some business to be intuitively, I believe there's business to be made by bringing the folks together.
Oh yeah, and there's such disruption now. I mean, and I think and at the hands of vCons, frankly, we have the collision between contact centers and CRMs and AI, right? There's no doubt why Salesforce, is making its moves and buying contact centers.
They have to. They have to.
They have to. They have to. And so that means that all the old, stuff that held them apart won't.
Right.
Right. And Valpad's now, competing with Salesforce.
And I think that it's going to get a lot blurrier in terms of what a CRM could do, what our CRMs can do today, and how and then there's this whole other trend that I'm seeing online on LinkedIn where people are basically saying that SaaS is dead because everyone can create their own code. But guess what? How many millions or hours of QA testing? See, people think, okay, you can build a prototype. Trust me, I can build a prototype too. But unless you're going to sit there with a QA suite and test everything and every use case and every edge case.
Yeah, you know what? I could even report this from the edge. So our largest installation of vCons went in about 45 days ago, and we've been through the beta period now and running real traffic, right? It's like 20 million vCons, a day, right? So there's a lot of traffic through it, and it's hardening up really nicely. And back in the day, we used to have to run tests on class 5 switches for 3, 6, 9 months.
Right.
There's a lot to test, a lot of interactions to test. And so what I've come to see is, yes, anyone could do the prototype, but there's still that baking. There's still time you have to spend actually using it in the field, because that's the only time you really have that feedback loop that gives you the insight to what the product should have done or not should have done. And so, yeah, that doesn't go away. There's actually still hard work to do.
Right. And so my message to everyone who wants to replace every SaaS product in the world is, there's a reason why you could do things on your own, but if you're putting things into production, make sure you have a QA testing loop that's live. And
well, but it's not like we haven't had this before, because before the web, when we would write code and it would have an error, you'd blue screen the computer.
Oh yeah.
When you're writing web pages that run in sandboxes, you never blue screen the internet.
True.
Right? That is different, right? It is substantially easier. I'm not saying it isn't, but just because this part's easy doesn't mean the rest of it's gotten easier too, because maybe it hasn't.
Well, I don't know. I was having fun replacing HubSpot. I was calling it Jeff Spot, and I was about to put it live, and all of a sudden, all these bugs started showing up, and I realized, oh boy, I didn't test enough edge cases for my own use. That okay, forget about replacing HubSpot. But it sort of just reminded me and grounded me that just because you want to be clever doesn't mean that it's going to work live outside your own little sandbox.
Yes, sir.
But vCons are one of those transformable. I believe we're going to find more companies out there naturally and organically adopting vCons. What I'm looking for, and I say this with love, is I want the folks at LiveKit and all those guys going to Y Combinator to learn about vCons when they're building their companies. And because it'd be really nice to have a hackathon where they're going to use VAPI and maybe DeepGram, maybe they're going to use LiveKit or they're going to use, I don't know, Jambones, and they have that infrastructure. And if you're starting a company, you should look to how vCons can be part of your infrastructure from the beginning. I am very grateful to the founders of the companies who are joining us, because they're all very vCon open and some are vCon aware. And I think that this is just going to grow organically and naturally, but having the time to educate is needed.
Yep, absolutely. And by the way, we are also hitting the stage where I'm losing count of the vCon companies.
Oh yeah, I lost count. And it's like almost every day I've had one successful pitch for vCons to be used. And, because for me, my incentive is if I can get someone to say, yes, vCons are critical or good for us or strategic, I could bring them into the vCon Foundation. And I think that it's what we should be getting ready for sometime this year is going to be a bake-off. Maybe we could do it in October. It was in Hyannis in April of 25. We had 9 companies do a bake-off at the very first vCon conference we did. And I think, by now, I mean, there were 30 something companies I knew about a few weeks ago, and I think that's gone up dramatically. And
absolutely. And by the way, when we have the bake off, I promise I will bake off. I will.
You'll be making some biscuits.
Biscuits, a quiche.
A vCon quiche. It's very good.
Quiche. Yeah.
Quiche. Wow. Hey, it's be always be curious, Well, Thomas, it's nice to see you. I hope you enjoy the weekend. And
I'll be on the beach. If you're on the Cape, I'll be in vConstable.
vConstable. Okay. Well, be vCon happy. And it's this is This Week in vCons. That's Thomas. I'm Jeff. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back next week. Bye for now.